Good morning. Today's lesson is called Patterns in Zeros. So we're going to look at how to multiply bigger numbers that end in zero, kind of the shortcuts that we can use to do that and why we use those shortcuts. So for example, if you have something like the number 3 times 4, and we also talked about this same concept when we had talked about, it'll come to me, distributive property. Okay? So 3 times 4 is 12, right? So if you do that, you have a 1 in the tens place and a 2 in the ones place. Okay, so that's your 12. But if you have 3 times 40, you have an extra placeholder, okay, an extra 0. And in the place value chart, a 0 means nothing, but a 0 is important because a 0 is a placeholder. And it moves numbers up and it helps give numbers different values. So 3 times 40, well, 3 times 4 is still 12, but it's got this placeholder here, and the 40 is 4 tens instead of 4 ones. So it's going to be 120. So we would multiply 3 times 4, which is still 12, and then put that 0 at the end. I don't want to say add the 0, because we're not really adding the 0. We're using the 0 as a placeholder. So what happens is that 0 moves the 2 into the tens place and the 1 into the hundreds place. So instead of having 12 ones, we end up with 12 tens, which is 120. And it would work the same way. If we had 30 times 4, okay, we would have 3 times 4, which is 12, and then we have the 0 as a placeholder over here, okay? So I underlined to show you I'm not multiplying these two numbers together to get my 12. I put the 0 under the dot under the 0 to show you that that 0 is also going to be moved over into my answer. And that 0 becomes a placeholder again. Instead of being 12 ones, it's 12 hundreds, okay? I'm sorry, 12 tens, which is 120. Same thing as up here, all right? So that can kind of work no matter what. Let's do a different number. If we were to do 5 times 7, 5 times 7 is 35, right? So we could do 50 times 70, okay? So this concept is still going to work. We have 5 times 7 is still 35, and we have two placeholders here. Okay, so we are going to move these. So here's our 35. We're going to move those placeholders to the end of our answer because they're important. Okay, so 5 times 7 is 35 ones, but we have 5 tens and 70 tens, which is 350 tens, which is 3,500. So those two placeholders move the 35 up, which should make sense. Because 5 times 7, when you're multiplying ones, is 35. So 50 times 70 should be a lot more than 35. So that should make sense. And it will work for no matter how many zeros you have at the end. And it really only works if the zeros are at the end. So this trick would not work if you had, say, 105 times 3. Okay, that's not going to work. But if you had 150 times 3, it would work. You would multiply 15 times 3, which is 45, and then you would put that 0 at the end. You get 450. All right, and it doesn't matter how many zeros you have. You could have 200 times 300, 300. And you're going to have 2 times 3 with 1, 2, 3, 4 placeholders at the end. So you have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure we have them all. And then we need a comma here. It's going to be 60,000. All right. Okay. Good luck.